Oh, Safties! Let's go drink some craft beer, dance the chicken dance, and watch the Wiener dog race. What? Did I misunderstand something? Hello, servus, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Felicia. I'm originally from Munich, Germany, but I've been living here in Cincinnati, Ohio, on and off since 2016. So you can hardly see it, but I am wearing my dirndl, or at least the one that I have here in Cincinnati, because in a parallel universe, where the evil C word doesn't even exist, the mayor of Munich would tap the first barrel of beer at noon local time today at the Schottenhamel Fest tent and open Oktoberfest with the words, "Oh, Zapfties, it's tapped." It would then go on for 16 whole days, have about 6 million visitors from all over the world, and end on the last day at 11 p.m. with people singing the song Angels by Robbie Williams while holding up sparklers. Well, in this universe, Oktoberfest was actually cancelled months ago for the second time in a row. But the great news is that the city of Munich actually just announced 2 days ago that Oktoberfest 2022 is definitely taking place, but it will require people to be either vaccinated or recovered and tested in addition to that. I'm super excited about that because I was born and raised in Munich and basically grew up with Oktoberfest, but I haven't been since 2017, so yeah, I'm going through some serious withdrawal. Now, I did actually make a video about everything you need to know about Oktoberfest last year, so if you haven't seen that yet, definitely check it out. Just click up here or on the link in the info box. I talked about the origins of Oktoberfest, some background facts, and what to know before you go. So basically an Oktoberfest guide from a Munich native. Now, while the name Oktoberfest is pretty much known all over the world, I frequently come across some really interesting assumptions and misconceptions that people have about it, which is why for today's video, I put together a list of the most common myths about Oktoberfest, and I'll let you know for each and every one whether it's true or complete bullshit. By the way, as you guys know, I have my own authentic Oktoberfest beer mugs that you can get on my shop, felifromgermany.com. And to celebrate Oktoberfest season with you, there will be even more Oktoberfest related products available next week, and you'll be able to get some great deals as well. So make sure to set a reminder for Friday, September 24th at noon Eastern time, because that's when everything will launch, and I'll release a video about it too. Don't miss it. Now, myth number 1, Oktoberfest is a cultural holiday for all Germans. This is something that I get asked all the time. How do you celebrate Oktoberfest when you're not in Munich? Do Germans just celebrate differently this year with the actual festival being cancelled? Many people outside of Germany seem to believe that Oktoberfest is some kind of cultural holiday that all Germans celebrate. I'm not sure what they think we celebrate exactly. The fall season or German culture? Well, that's not quite what it is. Oktoberfest is just one of many Volksfeste in southern Germany and Austria. Volksfest would probably be translated to Beerfest or maybe Folk Festival in English. So Oktoberfest is the name of a Volksfest that takes place in Munich, Germany, and it just happens to be the one that has become really, really big over the years and that has become known internationally. So in the first place, this is really just an event that takes place once a year in Munich. Now, it is a special time for Munich people for sure, and we even call it the 5th season in Munich, but we wouldn't really say that we celebrate Oktoberfest. We usually say that we go to Oktoberfest or we attend Oktoberfest. And yes, it is true that these days you'll find Oktoberfests in other parts of Germany as well, and really all over the world. There are Oktoberfests in more than 29 countries, which, you know, makes sense because they're kind of using the hype and want to offer people a similar experience without having to come to Munich. But, and this is my opinion as a Munich native, and I know that others feel similarly, those are really just Oktoberfest themed or Bavaria themed events that kind of use the name for marketing purposes. But Oktoberfest itself really isn't a franchise. You can't copy it because there's just one, and the official hosts of Oktoberfest don't host any of these other Oktoberfests. It's just like building an Eiffel Tower in Las Vegas doesn't mean that there's suddenly 2 Eiffel Towers in the world. Like if you went to the Eiffel Tower and told a friend, hey, I'm at the Eiffel Tower right now, they wouldn't ask you, oh, which one are you at? Or like if you started a new music festival and named it Coachella, it still wouldn't be the same festival. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say that there's anything wrong with other places in the world hosting their own Oktoberfests. I just personally always find it a little odd when people say things like, this is the second biggest Oktoberfest outside of Munich, or something like that. To me, that's like saying the Las Vegas Eiffel Tower is the second biggest Eiffel Tower in the world. It just sounds weird to make it sound like these are the same thing or in any way comparable. But to get back to the question, no, Oktoberfest isn't something that you celebrate at home with your family like you would celebrate Christmas or like Americans celebrate Thanksgiving. Munich people don't do that, and Germans in other regions definitely don't do that. I mean, Germany is a pretty big country and Bavaria is only one region really. The rest of Germany has other traditions and other events. Now, one thing that actually does exist are events called Wiesn warm-up parties. In Munich, we also call Oktoberfest Wiesn colloquially, and people sometimes have a little gathering at their place for the first weekend of Oktoberfest to celebrate the start of the season, or sometimes right before heading to the festival. Or sometimes there are also public Wiesn warm-up events. Myth number 2, Oktoberfest takes place in October. This one is partly true. Oktoberfest always starts on the Saturday after September 15th at noon, so this year it would have been today on the 18th, and it usually lasts for 16 days, including 3 weekends, ending on the first Sunday in October. So most of it takes place in September, but it goes into October. Now, why is it called Oktoberfest then and not Septemberfest? Well, because initially it did take place in October. Its origins are actually a big wedding celebration of Prince Ludwig and Princess Therese in the year 1810. They invited everyone in Munich to come out to the outskirts of the city to celebrate with them for several days. They hosted a big horse race and offered free food and drinks. The spot where it took place, and where it still takes place today, is called Theresienwiese, by the way, so Therese's Meadow, named after the bride, even though today it's a paved area. The following year, an agricultural society just decided to host it again because it was such a great opportunity to sell their beer, and that's how the tradition was started. The initial wedding took place on October 12th, 1810, and that's the time that people celebrated it in the following years as well, until about 60 years later in 1872, when it was moved to September because people wanted to avoid the cold weather in October and use the warmer September days to celebrate. Myth number 3, Oktoberfest is like in the movie Beerfest. Beerfest is an American comedy from 2006. And granted, I still haven't seen it, but I do know that there is an underground beer drinking competition that supposedly takes place during Oktoberfest. And I also know that they drink out of the glass boots a lot in the movie, which they call Das Boot, which couldn't be more wrong because Das Boot, which is how you pronounce that correctly, actually means the boat, whereas the boot that you wear on your foot is called der Stiefel in German. The glass boots do exist in Germany, but you won't really find those at Oktoberfest, and just in general, that's not something that's super common really. In reality, we usually drink out of these 1-liter glass mugs called Maßkrüge, like you can get them on my shop. These are the glasses that we drink from at Oktoberfest or at Bavarian beer gardens. Sometimes they're also available in a 1/2-liter size. But no, there is no drinking competition during Oktoberfest, and even though at the beer tents at Oktoberfest, people sometimes get up on the table and chug a whole liter of beer while everyone cheers them on, that's not really something I would recommend doing because some beer tents actually kick you out for that. So this myth is definitely busted. So all in all, this myth is definitely busted. Myth number 4 is that real Munich people don't even go to Oktoberfest and it's mainly a tourist event. That one is definitely wrong. I mean, yes, there are a lot of tourists, and yes, there are also a lot of residents in Munich who don't attend Oktoberfest and who are mainly just annoyed by how the city is full of tourists and full of drunk people for 2 weeks. But according to statistics, 70% of all visitors are actually from Bavaria, so from Munich and the region around Munich. 15% are from other parts of Germany, and about 15% are from other countries, with Americans actually being at the top of the list. So the majority of visitors are locals, and I mean, I've personally been going to Oktoberfest ever since I was a little kid, and in high school we would sometimes dress up in our traditional clothing for class and then go to Oktoberfest with our friends right after school. People also often go there to meet up with friends instead of meeting up at a bar or something. People go during their lunch break for some good food. People celebrate their birthdays there, and companies even go with their employees. Like, employers often reserve a table or several tables for their whole team and pay for drinks and food. That's a pretty common thing actually, to have a work reservation at Oktoberfest. And it's also a big celebrity hotspot too. So this myth is definitely busted as well. Related to the last one, myth number 5 is that locals don't dress up. Lederhosen and dirndls are only for tourists. That one is also wrong. Now, it's not mandatory to wear traditional Bavarian clothing, which would be a dirndl for women and lederhosen for men. And there was a time when most Munich locals actually went in regular street clothes, but in the last couple of decades, it's become really common again to attend Oktoberfest and other Volksfeste in traditional Bavarian clothing, which in Bavaria is often considered a very festive attire. People often also wear to church or to weddings, especially in more rural areas. So I would say that most Munich and Bavarian visitors do wear traditional clothing to Oktoberfest. Now, one thing that's important to notice though is that there is a difference to Halloween costumes. As Munich people, we don't really like it when tourists show up in something like this, or a t-shirt with a Lederhosen print, or dressed up as a beer mug or something like that. I mean, I'm sure that some locals will laugh about it and compliment you on the funny costume, but overall, it's almost like making fun of our traditional clothing. I would recommend that you either come in a real dirndl or lederhosen, which are a little pricey, or just come in regular clothes. Myth number 6, Oktoberfest is only for adults / all there is to do is drink beer. No and no. Oktoberfest is so much more than just drinking beer. Don't get me wrong, of course, drinking does play a big role. I mean, there are about 14 huge beer halls called tents, but I mean, they hold about 6,000 to 8,000 people each. But you don't only get beer in there, you'll also get some of the best food you've ever had. And outside of the beer tents, there are also countless booths and stands with food, games, and about 100 rides and attractions. There are huge roller coasters set up, there are fun houses, water rides, and really anything you can imagine. You can kind of compare it to a big state fair in the US, so there really is a lot more to Oktoberfest than just drinking beer, and it's a big hit with kids too. As I said, I went every year as a kid too, and that definitely wasn't for the beer tents. I just loved walking around, getting some cotton candy or roasted almonds, and riding my favorite roller coaster. Myth number 7, the chicken dance is a traditional part of Oktoberfest. And this one is, drumroll, also false. I mentioned this one in my last Oktoberfest video, but the chicken dance is neither a tradition nor is it German. It was written by a Swiss music teacher in the 1950s, and I've personally never seen a single person do it at Oktoberfest or really any of the bands play the song. I mean, we do know it in Germany, it's called Ententanz in German, so duck dance, but I personally mainly know it from kids events for carnival or in vacation resorts and those kinds of occasions, but for some reason, people in the US and in other countries too seem to believe that this is a traditional German / Bavarian thing, and many Oktoberfest celebrations all over the world make the chicken dance one of their main events. Myth number 8, we host Wiener dog races at Oktoberfest. The Wiener dog race assumption is just as wrong as the chicken dance one. We do not host races with Dachshunds, or also called Wiener dogs, Dackel, at Munich Oktoberfest. Neither do we do that at any other traditional Bavarian fests. And I think it's pretty safe to say that if we did have those races, we would not dress the dogs up as hot dogs. But again, this somehow became a tradition at Oktoberfests in the US and other countries. This is just a little clip from the Wiener dog race here at the Cincinnati Oktoberfest 2 days ago. Myth number 9, there's only traditional music at Oktoberfest. Music is really important at Oktoberfest. Every tent has their own live music, and there are usually different bands there throughout the day. Now, I often talk to people who assume that Oktoberfest is just a very traditional event overall, and that all you'll hear will be traditional Bavarian polka and brass music, or they assume that people dance traditional dances there. And the answer is that you definitely will hear that kind of music, especially during the day, but at most tents, the bands actually start playing a wide range of party songs at night and on the weekends also during the day. These might be Bavarian classics that you can sing along to, car and pop songs, and often even English-speaking songs such as Country Roads by John Denver or Sweet Caroline. One song that is often played as the last song of the night, and many times throughout the day, is Angels by Robbie Williams. This is always interesting with Americans because nobody here knows who Robbie Williams even is. Well, in Europe, he's a pop icon, as big as Britney Spears. Overall, I would say that it definitely makes your experience a lot better if you know the songs that are going to be played at Oktoberfest. So if you're planning on going next year or sometime in the future, make sure to get familiar with some of them. I'll just link a playlist in the info box below. Regarding dancing, I mean, people will get up on the benches and dance on there, and there are a couple pop songs that have like a choreography to it, like the Fliegerlied, the plane song where you do like your little, arm choreography, but that's about it. So no, traditional dances aren't something that people do at Oktoberfest. And the last myth that I want to talk about today is one that I've also found to be a common misconception, and that is that Oktoberfest is like a big beer fair and that you'll have huge selections of different beers, like different styles and craft beers and so on. That one actually couldn't be further from the truth. There really isn't a big beer selection at all. The way it works is that there are 6 Munich breweries at Oktoberfest and they have their own tents, so each of the 14 tents belongs to one of the breweries, and in those tents they only sell their own beer. So if you go to a Paulaner beer tent, you'll only get Paulaner beer. If you go to a Spaten tent, you'll only get Spaten beer, and it'll be their Wiesn Festbier, their Oktoberfest Festbier, I guess is how you could translate it, which is basically a lager, but it has a slightly higher alcohol percentage of about 6%. Officially, this kind of beer is called a Märzen, but we usually just refer to it as Festbier, Wiesenbier, or Helles, so just lager. So if you were hoping to try 20 different kinds of beer at Oktoberfest, you're gonna be disappointed. Inside the tents, your only alcoholic option is usually the Festbier, so a lager, or alternatively a Radler, beer mixed with lemon soda, but some tents don't even offer that. And even though Hefeweizen, wheat beer, is a Bavarian staple as well, you can't actually get that at the tents either. You'd have to go outside and go to the food stands for that. Same with liquor, by the way. You can find it at Oktoberfest, but not at the tents usually. The only exceptions are the wine tents, where, as the name suggests, they serve wine and other alcohol as well. Let me know in the comments below which of these myths you used to believe yourself and which one surprised you the most. And if you can think of more myths and misconceptions about Oktoberfest, or you simply have follow-up questions, just leave a comment as well. I'm actually going to Cincinnati Oktoberfest today, so if you want to see that, make sure to follow me on Instagram at with underscores, because I'll be documenting my visit in my Instagram story. And because I know that many of you will now ask me how the Cincinnati Oktoberfest compares to the Munich one, my answer is you really can't compare it. It's a completely different event. Cincinnati actually has different Oktoberfests in the area, but this one that is hosted downtown is really just a huge street festival with a Bavaria or Germany theme to it. I mean, it's fun, but not comparable. But if you want to know more, just check out my Instagram story today, and I also have some clips saved from the last years in my story highlights as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to support my channel, you can either join my Patreon family, buy me an Oktoberfest beer on buymeacoffee.com, or hit the super thanks button underneath the video. And for authentic Maßkrüge, beer mugs, check out my shop felifromgermany.com, and don't forget that there will be amazing new Oktoberfest products launching on Friday. With that, all that's left to say from me is 1, 2, 3, Xufa. Prost!